Alrighty, we're live.
All right. Welcome to another midweek late reject show. Um, I'm your host Chris, and here's my awesome co-host Cody. How are you tonight,
Howdy,
Cody?
folks. I am doing well. I'm excited for this weekend, though, because it's going to be actual fall weather, like hoodie
Yes.
weather.
We're actually going camping Saturday night, so that's going to be fun. The first 48, 49 degree night, I believe. So it'll be fun. That's campfire weather right there. Love it. But yeah, just in time for camping. Um, I'm hoping Friday night. I'll be watching. Hopefully, like a lot of you, Halloween Kills. Super excited about that. We just uh, tonight we're covering Halloween '78 and Halloween 2018. '78, right?
Yes, that
Yes.
is the year the original Halloween came out. And the reason we're only discussing these two films in this massive franchise is because, one, there's just too many films in the franchise to talk about. And
Right.
two, David Gordon Green's 2018 Halloween, this is now the third movie in a franchise just titled Halloween, ignores all of those movies and says, nope, only the original counts. Forget all that other stuff you've seen in all those other movies.
And being a first watch for us, I totally caught that. Like that really stood out when, and we'll get to it, but where he, they were like, oh, what wasn't he Laurie Strode's brother? And they were like, oh no, that just turned out to be you know, a a, a tale that just got started. And I was like, oh, there it is. That's the reset. That's the that's the reboot right there. And you know what? I don't mind it at all. Like it works.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to start out talking 2018 Halloween, but we can
Sorry.
sidebar on 2018 Halloween first and then kind of work our way back around. So, what kind of happened was, they kind of ran the franchise into the ground over at Miramax with the good old Weinsteins. And so they ended up remaking the movies, right? Rob Zombie directed two Halloweens. I am
Hmm.
not a fan of either one of those interpretations of the films. I know there are fans of it,
They
and
are
that's fine.
they're not as great as the the OG Halloween, but they do it. I like them for being an alternate twist on the stories. Like, are they great? No, but are they good B movie schlock? Sure, they're entertaining. Um, that, and I happen to be a Rob Zombie fan, so I mean, I'm probably giving him a little more slack on these than he deserves because they are not the greatest. I like them, because I like shit movies. Um, but yeah, you're right on that, Cody. So
I just don't like the whole trailer trash thing. I get what he was trying to do, and I commend him trying to do it in the first film, but that kind of defeats the purpose of Michael Myers as a character, is trying to like find out why he's evil, why he does the stuff he does. Also, the dialogue is atrocious, and I'm not
oh
one
yeah.
that's picky about vulgar language. I mean, I love Quentin Tarantino movies, but I feel like
Mhm.
it's just in there for no reason. And
Vulgar to
Halloween
be
2,
vulgar.
and Halloween 2, his sequel is friggin' weird and could be argued one of the worst films in the franchise. So what
Oh yeah.
happens is they're in development hell to make a third film or another Halloween reboot,
Mhm.
reimagining, whatever the hell you want to call it. And so for all these years it's in limbo. The rights go back to Universal, who did Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And
Mhm.
that's another problem with this franchise, is that the rights have been all over the place because the first film was an independent film that costs like $300,000 or something to make. It like costs next to nothing.
Right.
So Universal gets it back. They give it to Blumhouse. If you guys don't know what Blumhouse is, it's ran by a guy named Jason Blumhouse. And what he
Mhm.
does is he makes very low budget movies and always returns a profit. Kind of started with Paranormal Activity, and he's just been doing it for over a decade. And the horror genre is famous for this, anyways. Is typically horror films don't cost a lot of
D
money.
Didn't he I think he has a deal with the classic Universal monsters or something like that, or I saw something along the lines of he's working with
Oh,
them.
he might. I wanna say he wasn't they were involved in the Invisible Man remake, which is really good,
Mm,
that came out last year. Anyways, the rights get back to them. They give it to Blumhouse, and somehow David Gordon Green and Danny McBride get involved, and they are like banging their heads of like, how do we do another Halloween movie? What do we do? Because like they originally were gonna try and incorporate like everything, all the timelines, and try and make sense. And I don't know who the idea it was, but they're like, might have been Blumhouse, might have been somebody else. They're like, what if we just go back to the original and not worry about all that? They've done it before. Let's do it
mhm,
again. And we really want Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter's blessing on this movie.
right.
And one, I don't think it was as hard to get Jamie Lee Curtis on board. It was a little bit harder to get Carpenter on board because Carpenter
Mhm,
hated that he did a sequel. He didn't ever want to make a sequel, but they offered him a ton of money to write a sequel. And he hates that he came up with the idea that Michael Myers and Laurie Strode were brother and sister. He's like, it
maybe
just,
he got on board with this because it was a way to to kind of erase that and fix what he deems as a mistake. You know, I know there are fans out there that probably hated the idea of their beloved franchise being wiped from the face of the earth, but coming from somebody, I don't know. I actually I dig it. I like it. Um,
I think
it
it's
I,
perfectly fine because look how many times they've done it already in the franchise. They did it
right.
20 years ago with H2O. They ignored everything but part two.
Hmm.
Um, they did 4, 5, and 6, which are their own thing, and then yeah. So it's happened multiple times in the franchise, so that's not a big deal. The other thing that happens is John Carpenter tried to kill Michael Myers off and
Right.
do his own thing. Part 3, which Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is a phenomenal movie. You guys should watch it. I don't care that it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. I really wish they had done this. And once Gordon Green ends his trilogy, I would love if they would go back and do anthology films that are just set on Halloween and it's a different story. But when that film came out,
Hmm.
it was a huge flop. People hated it. Hated that movie. It took 20 to 25 years for people to come around on that movie and say, "You know what? This is actually a pretty cool movie." And so when the guy who kind of financed all these films and now his son is involved in the franchise, he's like, "No, we have to get Michael Myers back." And
Hmm.
so John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, who was a very big producer and intricate to Carpenter's early career, signed off on a script that Joe Dante was going to direct for Halloween 4, and they rejected it. So Carpenter sold all his rights to the franchise and didn't want to be involved anymore. So not only did they get John Carpenter back on board for these new ones, he's doing the music with his son Cody Carpenter. So we're getting that John Carpenter score.
And that's on point. I love that.
And now we can segue back to the original film because man, do you know the famous story about when they made this movie?
You know, we were watching it. We had again, we actually watched these ahead of time instead of waiting for the last minute like we normally do. So, earlier tonight we had started watching a documentary on YouTube. It's like 4 hours long. It probably incorporates all of the past movie. Probably someone probably took all the special features and like mashed them all together and made one really long, awesome video, which is fine by me because I'm gonna break it up and try to watch it all. But yeah, I don't think we got really far into it. I know how much. I'm trying to remember how much he said it cost, or what he said he could make the movie for. Um,
Well, I'm
was it
talking
300,000?
specifically about the music, but yeah, it was like 300,000, I think, maybe a little bit more, but it was like really low budget.
Yeah.
Anyways, he shows a cut of the film without music, and one of the
Mhm.
producers is like, "This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. What is this?"
Oh
And so
no.
Carpenter goes and scores the soundtrack, does that theme. Like people know this theme song even if they've never seen Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Puts the music in the film, and the producer's like, "This is the scariest thing I've ever seen."
Music. Oh,
Shows you.
music is powerful. Music. I'm a firm believer in, again, in soundtracks and how and what a role they play in movies. Like without a good soundtrack, you could take an epic movie and take away the soundtrack and it wouldn't be as epic. Like um music adds so much to a film. And you're right, that score, everybody knows that piece of music. Uh Even if, like you said, they haven't even seen this before, they know it's associated with Halloween and something like terrifying. And it's on point. It gets me every time. I love it when I hear it on screen.
And John Carpenter's skills as a composer and musician is how he gets Donald Pleasance to play the role of Dr. Sam Loomis. Carpenter originally wanted Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing, and they both
Mhm.
turned it down because they didn't want to be. They're like, "You can't pay me enough money. I want more money." But apparently, Christopher Lee says he regretted not making accepting this role. Though, if Christopher Lee was Sam Loomis, I don't think Michael Myers would have had a chance in hell at killing
he
anybody.
he he would have strangled him with piano wire. He was notorious for that. There's you'll have to look up the piano wire story uh, that he tells somebody in an interview or something, uh, that how he dispatched people in World War II with using piano wire. It's pretty terrifying.
But yeah, Donald Pleasance, who's a known character actor, even at this point, he'd been in a lot of movies. If someone can tell me there's a movie where Donald Pleasance doesn't always look like what we know Donald Pleasance looks like, please let me know because
No.
everything I've seen him in, he looks the same. He just got older. Um,
Confused, just that worried, confused look on his face all the time.
but the reason he took this role, besides apparently he owed alimony payments to his wife or ex-wife,
Ouch.
was his daughter was in a rock band. One of his daughters was in a rock band, and she said your music and your movie Assault on Precinct 13 was really cool. So I'll do the movie because my daughter says you're cool.
Well, that's pretty cool. Way to go, Donald. And I hope he got those alimony payments
I
made.
mean, he made a career out of this. The poor man died playing this character. Like this was his last role, like
It
on
probably
screen.
set him up. Hopefully, it set him up. Hopefully the studio saw what they had and gave him more money each time he came back. As the character. So you would hope. You know.
Well, I gotta say, even as bad as those sequels got, like when we got further down with each one,
Mhm.
the man never phones it in as an actor. Even if he's overacting, I love Donald Pleasance in this movie. I've even dressed as Dr. Loomis for Halloween before. I went to a screening of Halloween as Dr. Loomis.
Nice.
So, yeah, I think this performance is on par with Robert Shaw in Jaws.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. It's up there. Cuz you can okay, as much of a classic film as this is, you still get the sense that yes, this was made on a lower budget. It is an older film, but man, when he comes in on screen, he seems like a classically trained actor, and he's just giving it like 110% and carrying this lower budget, this $300,000 movie. He's like, I am the great Donald Pleasance. I'm going to grace this film with my presence, and it will become a classic. Maybe he was kind of like the Obi-Wan. He was kind of like the Alec Guinness in Star Wars, like this. Uh,
Yeah, renowned, known actor in this kind of like, what are you doing in this schlocky movie?
right. You know, exactly.
Uh, this movie the idea of it kind of comes from several things. Now, this movie gets often credited for being the first slasher movie, which is technically not correct. But what this movie does, as we discussed in Scream a few weeks ago, this
Mhm.
kind of sets up what we know the slasher movies would become, because this is the first one where we get like that marquee killer, like our new monsters. Like, this became modern horror. There would be no Friday the 13th. There would be no
Mhm.
Scream. I'd say there probably would be no Nightmare on Elm Street without this movie. Like, this movie changed horror. Now, granted, they're taking a lot from other films such as Psycho. I mean, Donald Pleasance's character is named after a character in that film. That's Janet Leigh's boyfriend's name in the film, Sam Loomis, who Janet Leigh is the mother of the star of this movie, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right. She went dressed as her mother's character to the premiere of this. They had like I guess like a
Oh, for the new
costume
one, yeah.
like costume they wore costumes to the premiere, and she went dressed as her mother uh from Psycho, and it was pretty cool to see that.
This film's heavily inspired by the Giallo films, Italy Italian horror films that were made in the 60s and 70s. Peeping
Mhm.
Tom is also another reference. And of course, Bob Clark's Black Christmas, because the movie Carpenter originally gets hired to make a movie about a killer that stalks babysitters and murders them. That's the original premise of this movie. And
Right.
Carpenter gets the idea for just pure evil because he remembers, and I can't remember if it's from his high school days or when he was in college at USC, but he remembers visiting a mental institution and seeing a young patient there, and said he just had a blank stare and it scared the crap out of him. Like, there was nothing there, like nothing in his. And that's kind of where he got the idea for Michael Myers. Now, I'm going to tell you why I love this movie and this franchise so much. Besides that, I love John Carpenter. John Carpenter is one of my all-time favorite directors.
Mhm.
John Carpenter grew up in a similar area that I grew up in, South Central Kentucky. He lived in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which I lived in a town about 45 miles north of there. And he name drops several things, and they continue it through the franchise. Like, the sanitarium's named Smith's Grove. That's a town
Mhm.
on that you passed on highway Interstate 65 leaving Bowling Green if you're driving to Louisville. They mentioned
Nice.
Russellville. That's a town in the area, Hardin County. And then later in the sequels, you'll see like the sheriff's department wearing saying Warren County. That's Bowling Green's
Mhm.
county, Warren County. So that's another reason why I love this movie. Is like, it's like, hey, I know all these references. But it was the first horror film I went and rented after watching Scream because it gets referenced, and I just I can't believe no one had came up with this idea before this movie came out for a
Right.
horror film centered around Halloween. Like, that seems like that would have already been would happen. And I
Right.
also love that
Yeah, it
this
was such
movie.
a I mean, it was right there in their face. Still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I'm good on this end.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing is this movie's not really gory. It's mostly suspenseful.
Yeah, that's what I was like, man, it's been a while since I have seen this, like several years. And for some reason in my head, like in between that gap, I for some reason I built it up a little more in my head with it being a little more gorier than it was. And it wasn't ever an issue. I always enjoyed it, but it like just in that absence of having not seen it in a while, like a long time, that I just remember it being gorier than what it was, and I was pleasantly surprised. And even Lindsay was like, "Oh, you know what? This is more suspenseful than it is gory. There's not a lot of boobies in it, and uh, the teen sex is toned down. And like, man, I really enjoy this more than I do, the Friday the 13th series. And you know what? For the longest time, I was a Friday the 13th fan, and I still am. But I think this converted me back over to enjoying this franchise, or thinking this franchise is superior. I mean, I enjoy them both for what they are. Um, but yeah, like I'm really digging uh, this setup here. Like I want to go back and rewatch the rest of them just to watch them and kind of catch myself back up on this series. And bravo to McBride and Green, because man, they knocked it out of the ballpark with the 2018 Halloween. Like I really, that was my first time watching it, and our first time watching it, and we both loved it. Like we're excited for Halloween Kills. Like it excuse me, it's gonna be pretty awesome.
So before we get to the newer Halloween, I think the original Halloween has one of the greatest opening title sequences in film history. I mean, it's just you got that killer music and just a pumpkin. And then I
Hmm.
love that it does something, and I'm sure other films had done this before, but I can't remember a film that I saw before where it puts us in the POV shot of the murderer, and then we see it all happen, and then they take the mask off and it's a little kid.
Yeah, that was brilliantly done. I thought that was. I've always enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed that opening. It always gets me every time. Like I said, it's been years since I watched it. Like in the back of my head, I knew it was a little kid, but just watching it the other day, it was still effective. Still there? Okay. Yeah, some little
Yeah.
creep running around, looking through the windows and then going to murder, his sister. And that's the thing, you don't really like why. Like Lindsay wanted to know why. Why what happened to that 6-year-old up to that point that made him snap and want to kill his sister, like
Well, then she wouldn't like John Carpenter's explanation then that Dr. Loomis says he's just evil.
he's just pure evil. Yeah. So, but
Which, did you know that he's often credited in this first film as the Shape, not really Michael Myers?
the shape, I like that sounds creepier to me. The shape. Because I'll tell you what, my favorite scene is when he's in the house, like right when it's like right before Jamie Lee Curtis goes over the banister upstairs. She's like standing in the hall at the end of the hallway, and then you just see his mask like slowly kind of appear out of the dark. And it's a shape. So yeah, when you think of it that way, or you just hear that name, the shape, it's more terrifying than Michael Myers to me. But that is my
Well, and I
favorite
think
scene right
I
there.
think yeah. I think Carpenter makes it like a little bit supernatural too. Like he's just an
Mm.
entity. He's not a man. He's not a person. He's
When he
just an
takes
entity.
shots and stabbings and he just keeps coming, like the pain doesn't register to him at all. Like he's just a murder machine.
Before we get to the new one, we also got to talk about Jamie Lee Curtis. What a star-making performance for her. And
Mhm.
I like that. So what's interesting is they talk about the tropes that become of this slasher film, right? And the different caricatures.
Mhm.
And Carpenter always laughed and he's like, I wasn't trying to make any kind of morality tale. I was just like, it's a movie about a guy killing a bunch of teenage babysitters. And what the hell do teenagers do? They smoke weed, they have sex, and drink beer.
Right? And hang out and talk on the phone and watch shitty programming on TV back in the day, like
But what
the
I like about
programming.
Laurie Strode is, yeah, she's a good girl. She makes good grades in school. She does the right thing, but she's not completely good because, we do see her smoking weed with her friend in the car.
Yeah, like they I don't know. They're babysitters, they got to put on that front of being good girls so they can kind of get away with. And how ballsy was her friend pulling up to her dad after like putting out a joint in the car? Like I'm like, man, that dude's a cop, and your windows were rolled up. You're not gonna like pull up there just just now rolling your windows down with your car smelling like weed with your
And
cop dad standing like right there. I'm like, man, you just
and that actor Charles Cyphers, who plays the sheriff, is going to
mm,
be in Halloween Kills, as is the nurse who's in the car with Donald Pleasance at the beginning, who is from Russ,
yeah,
Texas. She is from Russ, Texas, that actor. And
that is
then
awesome. Yeah,
the little girl Lindsay is going to be in the new one. Apparently she's a real housewife on reality TV now.
oh wow, that's weird.
But I
Yeah.
guess we also, speaking of mask, you being a Star Trek fan, you do know that's a Captain Kirk mask Michael Myers is wearing that they spray painted white.
Yes, yeah, that was pretty atrocious. They spray painted it white and slicked the hair back. But hey, speaking of Captain Kirk, as much as I loathe Amazon and Jeff Bezos, I did think it was pretty cool that old Shatner got to go into space. Because his when he came back, man, Shatner was in tears and it was pretty moving. Like everybody was everybody was like, you know, popping champagne and laughing, and he was just standing there having like this profound you should watch the video. Like he breaks down. He's like, man, I wanted to know what it was all about, and I think I saw it or something like that. He just kept going on and had this really profound, just deep, I don't know, good for him, man. Oldest man to go into space. Good for
Take
you,
that,
Bill.
John Glenn. Was it John Glenn that went into space like back in the 90s, was the oldest man?
80 something. Yeah. That was but yeah, good for him, man. He got to float around and see what it was all about. Apparently it was his answer to his life question. So good for him.
Yeah, and speaking of Jamie Lee Curtis, I like that she fights back. Like she doesn't
Yeah,
like she fights back. She does what she has to protect the two kids she's babysitting.
using knitting needles and coat hangers and man, everything.
And she becomes an icon and a legend, and I like that she's never turned up her nose at being in these type of movies because she went on to do quite a bit of horror films before she relinquished herself to do other roles, which I can understand why an actor would do that. You don't want to get typecast, and it is very easy for actresses who start out in these horror films
Right,
as a scream queen to kind of stay in that type of role. Like that's what they do. Like most of them don't get to get out of it. But she's come back to the franchise like twice, so she's not
right.
afraid to come back and do it.
And she was heavily involved, what executive producer and whatnot on the 2018 and this one coming up. So like she
Mhm.
apparently cares about it. Like she appreciates that it got her to where she's at now. Like
Oh,
and
she
that the
is
fans love it. She's there for
she
the fans and
she's very humble about it. She's very understanding that a big part of her getting the job was who her parents were because her parents were
mhm,
Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh.
right.
And there was a really interesting story at Comic Con. I think it was the year the 2018 version came out that a fan kind of revealed to her that the movie Halloween and helped her performance helped him in a situation where I guess he had a home invader or something happen where it was like life or death, and he said like it was an inspiration to like for survival and to keep going.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
that's
awesome.
I think that's the other thing that made Halloween so primal and like such a huge hit at the time was before Halloween, most horror films you had to like get out of your comfort zone for the horror to
Mhm.
find you. You were either in the backwoods, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or you
Right.
were in Transylvania. You were in a forbidden land, older land. You weren't, and this is right here in the suburbs. It's in the suburbs where middle America lives, and
Yeah, it
that's terrifying to everybody because you think your home is safe, and nope, there's a 6 foot shape coming to kill you.
Yeah, it could have been it. I grew up with my older sisters or my buddy's older sisters like babysitting us, and we were in that exact situation growing up, like at home at night with a babysitter or an older sister or something, and that could have very well have been anybody, like any one of us, like you said, a big hulking shape just relentlessly trying to murder you. And that is one thing I had forgotten about the first movie is how small he looked because he's a younger guy, because when I see him or I see an action figure of him or a picture of him online, he's kind of like Jason Voorhees. Like he started out kind of smaller and puny, and over time they bulked him up to be this unstoppable tank, you know.
Well, because of the nature of where the genre went and because of the popularity of the Friday the 13th franchise, I think
Right.
that's what happened.
But in the first one, he was a smaller guy, but he was still terrifying. Like he was still gonna murder somebody. So
And I love the ending to this movie. I love that Loomis just runs up the stairs, unloads on this guy. He falls off the balcony.
right,
You think, okay, Loomis has saved the day. And Lori asks if that was the boogeyman. And he says, as a matter of fact, it was. We hear the music, you see all the things, you hear the breathing, and then when we get back to
mhm,
where he fell down, he's gone.
right. Yeah, I love it because it totally not only does it set it up for a sequel, but that's even more terrifying to realize that after being shot and stabbed multiple times that and falling off of a two-story balcony that that dude's still alive and out there waiting to come back.
So I've heard recently that like watching these movies is like doing a choose your own adventure book, like on where you want to go. So before we decide to plunge into the choosing adventure of yes, I want more of this, but we're going to do it 40 years later, is there anything else you want to talk about this original movie that changed horror that and was the highest grossing independent film of all time until Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Those green bastards. That was a magnificent movie though for a little what 7-year-old me.
And this
So
is Carpenter's most popular film. It's Carpenter's most profitable film. It's not his best film. I love this movie, but there's so many other Carpenter films that I feel like are more John Carpenter than this one.
I love this
But
movie. My all-time favorite will be Big Trouble in Little China,
uh,
and I just can't. I mean, I love it so much.
that movie's so much fun, but I arguably would say his masterpiece is his remake of The Thing.
Ooh, yeah, it's hard to argue with that. Like, as far as masterpiece, I'll give him. I'll agree with that one. Like that one's straight up perfection. But as a personal favorite, I've got to go with Big Trouble because it's such a fun movie, and I so like I don't want to. I know they had a comic book, but I would love to see Kurt Russell come back and do a sequel to that, an older Jack Burton. I would dig it.
Well, I'd be cool if he came back and did an old man Snake too.
That would be so awesome. Yeah, I'd love it.
But is there anything else you want to talk about this movie that we haven't talked about? Because I mean, we're trying to talk about both, though.
No, because I will tell you this, it's gonna be recycled back into my yearly watches because it had been a while. Um, I'm turning over a new leaf, and I'm gonna say that, you know, this does trump the Friday the 13th. Although I do love me some Jason Voorhees. I've kind of converted back over to the Michael Myers camp. Like he's just
Just for me, and I'm not gonna throw any shade at people that prefer the Friday the 13th series. I like several of those films in the franchise. I just
mhm,
think at least if you put this original up against the original Friday the 13th, it's a better movie. There's more atmosphere. It's more suspenseful. It's not, I mean, yes, there's a sex scene and we get a little bit of nudity, but it's not just tits and gore. Like, this is a
right.
straight up suspenseful horror film. And I just love the atmosphere. And I love that it takes place on Halloween.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Like I the outdoorsy camping, having gone to summer camps and winter camp, Camp Pirtle over here on Marval, growing up with the Boy Scouts. Like that part of me still loves the Jason Voorhees because it's such a scary figure being in that atmosphere. But yeah, I totally agree with you on. We also grew up in town before we moved to the country, and on Daniel Street, there where the swimming pool road is at the top of the hill. So I kind of grew up in a neighborhood where we knew all the neighbors, and I was riding my bike, a couple streets over, and just all over the neighborhood, playing with the neighborhood kids and trick or treating. So yeah, I could totally see where that aspect of it too, and how terrifying that is because there were kids that bumped into him, and he looked just like everybody else that was dressing up. People were just looking at him like, "Oh, that's a creepy looking. It's Halloween. It's supposed to be creepy." You
Right,
know,
it's Halloween. Yeah,
yeah,
who
that
would
looks like a
question?
bloody fake knife, sure. You know, I'm not gonna, yeah, let him go scare people and ask for candy, whatever. So,
And I guess this movie's gonna get even closer to me because I had a friend of mine that passed this year, and this was like his favorite movie or one of his all-time favorite movies, and it was definitely his favorite horror franchise. So
right.
kind of bummed that he doesn't get to see the new movie because I know he probably would have loved it. All right. Well, we are choosing to, yes, we want more Halloween, but we're going to go 40 years into the future and not look at any of all those other films that have come in the time frame between it. And we're talking David Gordon Green's 2018 sequel, also called Halloween.
Yes, and if you're not familiar with this guy, again, it kind of went over my head until I saw a picture of him. But if you've seen East Down and Bound, you'll recognize him. He is not only Kenny Powers, it's Kenny Powers and
Oh,
his little
that's Danny
buddy.
McBride, who's the co-writer. The director, David Gordon
Yeah,
Green, who
yeah.
also produced that show. He's the producer on Vice Principals, and I believe he's a producer on The Righteous Gemstones. But he's a very versatile director. He's directed like a whole lot of stuff. He's done heavy dramas, he's done some comedies, and now he's in horror. He shot a couple of movies in Texas, one with Nicolas Cage, one with Al Pacino, one with Paul Rudd. Like, he's done a little bit of everything.
Right. Yeah, just I mean, but it just his character in that show. Oh, and if you haven't seen Gemstones, I highly recommend it. It's great. But the Royal Gemstones. But anyway, yeah, you'll recognize the two guys, writer and director. Um, totally, they nailed it. They nailed it with this. This is probably like one of my new favorite movies. Was this movie and the way that they incorporated it to a movie that's 40 years old and the way they handled it was great. Like I can't go on about how much of a great sequel this is and you know the way that they handle the sequels about them just being urban legends is great too because again that's how urban legends get started. Somebody will say something and then ends up well, I heard two towns over, you know, that there was this guy Michael Myers and he was trying to murder his sister and there's some death cult and yada 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 and there's clowns involved, you know. So over the years you could see them becoming just urban legends that had picked up and gained notoriety amongst, you know, school kids. So I'm not sure if that's what they were intending, but in my head canon, that's the way I took it. Like the sequels just over time just became urban legends, and I
Well,
love that.
I don't think they do make several nods to some of the other films in the franchise, but I
Mm,
don't think they say there's some lines which I'm not, I guess, that heavy of knowledgeable of the lines they're referencing, but I think the only thing I remember them purposely referencing in the dialogue is part 2 about them being siblings and Laurie's granddaughter saying, "No, that's just a myth or a rumor." Now
right,
they do reference the masks from Halloween 3. You can see several kids wearing those silver shamrock masks. And the scene where the podcasters get brutally murdered in the bathroom is referencing part 4 and H2O because there's a gas station sequence in Halloween 4 where Loomis finds some like wreckage of Michael Myers killing people. And then there's a bathroom scene where Michael Myers steals this woman's car with her and her daughter in the bathroom. But he didn't kill them in that movie.
right.
But yeah, I think they did a really good job of like just kind of resetting and doing their own thing. I love
Mhm.
that Nick Castle, one of the guys who played the Shape, Michael Myers in the original, is in several scenes in this, who is a buddy of John Carpenter's. I
And the
think that,
director himself.
yeah, I think they nailed Laurie. Jamie Lee Curtis's performance is amazing in this movie. I think they nailed exactly what someone with PTSD who survived something like that would be like. Like, that's
Mhm.
believable. Like, I thought they captured PTSD, being a victim, and kind of reclaiming not being a victim very well in this movie.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah, Jamie, man, her performance was spot on. Like, it was great. And again, the way they wrote her character and the transition, like, you don't know what happened in that 40 years, but she did say she was 2 failed marriages in, and, apparently she had a daughter who was taken away, um, by CPS at the age of 12 because of her PTSD, not being able to live with her PTSD, and raising her kind of Sarah Connor. Like, that's the way Sarah Connor rose John, was to be prepared, and she kind of went Sarah Connor with it, and it wasn't the healthiest way to cope or to do that, but it apparently came in handy. The night came that she had been dreading, and they had to use all of those tactics, and
I
it worked.
do love that scene where Judy Greer is acting like she's helpless and can't do anything. And then when Michael Myers shows up and she just aims that gun perfectly, and it was like, bam.
Mhm. Those instincts kick in. Those 12-year-old, like, man, I trained for this up until I was 12. There's still something there, and it clicked. Like, she's like, I can nail this guy.
And I don't know how this will feel like in 20 years or so, but right now, I think this was a better reboot than H2O was, because H2O feels very much of the 90s and
It's
of the
dated.
Scream success. Like, well, of course, it's written
Yeah,
by the same guy who wrote Scream, so you could tell,
right.
like, it's very much of like, oh, we're capitalizing on that Scream popularity. And
They
this
didn't
one,
try to replace Ghostface with, you know, a Myers mask.
and I like H2O, but this is a
Mhm.
much better version, and they do a better job of retconning Laurie's other children from the other timelines, because in
Yeah,
H2O they reference that she faked her death in a car crash, which that's supposedly how she died in Halloween 4. So that means she just abandoned that poor little girl to all the terrible things that happened to her. But we're not going to get into 4, 5, and 6.
right.
So, so they did a better job of ignoring the other movies
Mhm.
with, and I love that it's generational. There's 3 generations of women in this story.
Yeah, yeah, I like the granddaughter's role. That actress was really good in this. I liked, like, it kind of sucked because of what PTSD did to him, but I liked the fact that she was still in touch with her grandmother, but the actual daughter was like, "Oh yeah, I called her, when I actually hadn't, because she's worried of the influence that she's gonna have on her daughter, but knowing that she was right in the end, I know had to had to have sucked, and the poor husband too. Like, I knew he was gonna get it. Like, he was too goofy. Like, he was the goofy dad.
Well, I mean,
Lindsay kept saying, "Oh yeah, I wonder when he's gonna get it." And then, like, when the police car showed up, I was like, "Yep, this is it."
well, his lines and then that scene between the guy and his son, I'm like, "Oh yeah, Danny McBride wrote these scenes," because
Yeah,
the kid wanting to dance and then the dad talking about getting peanut butter on his penis and making weird jokes.
Yeah, you could definitely. Yeah, that was definitely a touch of McBride shining through that, and lending his comedic words. But yeah, man, I cannot wait. Like I haven't been this excited for a horror movie in a long time, and I'm pretty stoked about it. Pretty excited. I've watched the trailer like twice today. Just pretty stoked. And
Yeah, I'm real.
I didn't know it was going to be a trilogy at all. Like until the other day, I was like, man, we're gonna get another one. That's awesome.
It's gonna be called Halloween Ends.
Yeah, that's gonna be
So
pretty sweet.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure they'll still do something with Michael Myers. But I would really love if, like, after they finish this third one, like, they go with John Carpenter's original idea for how to continue the franchise. I think that would be really cool to do anthology films with
That
different.
would, and that's something they could do on TV and just have seasons. You know, just do a show where you get like so many episodes per season, and have them release on Halloween every year. That would be excellent.
But yeah, I think this is a really good movie. I don't know if the humor always works in this, but it didn't bother me to where I was like it's grating. But
Yeah,
I think this is a worthy successor to the
mhm.
franchise. I think it's not my favorite sequel in the series, but it's my favorite direct sequel, if that makes sense. So you probably have guessed what my second favorite movie in the franchise is besides the original, just by those wordings.
Oh yeah, 3. We're gonna go back and watch that one. We'll watch the second one, the third one. I don't know if we'll get to all of them this year, but we've still got so many movies that we've got to watch. But
Yeah, don't spend all your time because let me tell you, Revenge, Curse, Resurrection, those are all hot garbage movies.
yeah, like we were
Like
watching The Fly earlier. We're trying to branch out and do, like, I've seen The Fly, but it's been a while. Lindsay hadn't seen it, so
the
we
Jeff
started watching it.
Goldblum,
Yeah,
Cronenberg
some
one. Yeah.
good stuff.
That's
Um,
another horror remake that I would say is better than the original. Besides John Carpenter's Thing, I would say The Fly.
yeah, we watched Maggie. Um, Interesting zombie movie. A little slow for my taste, but it was all right. Old Arnold, and what's her name?
Oh, is
Uh,
it
Abigail
Chloe?
Breslin or
Oh,
whatever.
Abigail Breslin. Okay, I had
Yeah,
the
she
wrong.
gets bitten, and like there's a certain amount of time that she has before she, fully turns, and I don't know. It was slow. It was good though. It was decent. A different kind of zombie movie. But let's see. We watched that one. We watched Blair Witch Project.
The original?
The original. I don't really bother with the others. They were mediocre. They weren't. They. I know they kind of lost the flavor. After the first one.
I never saw any of the sequels except for the rebooted one they did about 4 or 5 years ago.
I remember watching that one too, but even that one didn't.
Yeah, that one wasn't that good either.
No, the original still holds up as just being like you've seen. Like I've seen it 100 times. Like I know what happens, but it's still solid. Like a fake documentary. Like it still holds up and pulls off like it was an actual documentary. So very well done.
But if you're gonna watch any of the Halloween sequels, I would definitely say for sure watch three. And I guess if you're gonna watch any besides two, then you should watch two. But other than that, I would say four's pretty cool, and seven I like H2O. And I really hope that this new movie kind of works because Halloween so far has been popular and when they kind of restart the franchise, they kick it off really well, and then they
Mhm.
shit the bed with the sequels, the follow up, because like four's got such a well, three is so amazing, but then four's got such a really cool ending, but then they kind of falter that, and then five and six are a mess, and then seven has a pretty great opening, and then they did that stupid reality online TV Halloween movie with Busta Rhymes,
Oh,
Kung
yeah, I
Fu, and
remember
Michael
that.
Myers.
Yeah. Well, if we get to them, we'll probably watch 2 because I wanna watch them in order, like, I'm a stickler when it comes to that, so I'll probably
Well,
watch them in order.
when you watch two, look out for a young Dana Carvey.
I've always heard that.
He doesn't have any lines, so it's going to be a little bit harder to spot him, but he is in the movie.
Nice. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for him.
So, is
But,
there anything else you liked about the 2018 Halloween, or something that struck out to you? Were you just surprised how good it was?
I was very surprised about how good it was. Like, this'll be a yearly watch for me if I decide to get to them, I'll be like, "Man, the first one, 2018," and more than likely, as much as I loved this one, I'm like, I don't wanna guarantee it, but I'm betting Halloween Kills is gonna be just as good, so I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to watch it Friday night and then go into the woods camping, uh, Saturday, so that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think it's a worthy follow up. And yeah, just don't try to marathon all of these at once, Chris, because apparently, if you do, Owen Wilson will show up at your house and erase you from the timeline for you messing
Uh,
with too many timelines.
wow. Wow. I'll just wow them to death. We'll have a wow off. Wow. Back and forth until the world explodes. Man. All right, man. Well, I'm glad we got to cover those two in our weekly spooky double feature. That was fun. I'm glad I got to revisit those. If you haven't watched it in a while, the original, the 78 Halloween, please go back and watch it. It's such a great movie. Um, Such a staple in horror movie history. It's a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to revisit it and getting to see Halloween 2018 for the first time. Super pleasantly surprised about that movie. So,
Oh, I got a story to share with 2018. I got to see it Thursday night premiere, and they whatever company, there was some sort of company that was linked, I think it's a roofing company out of Tyler, did some sort of
mhm,
promotion with the theater they were showing it at,
mhm.
and they had a guy dressed as Michael Myers. You could go get your picture taken with him. I think there's a picture somewhere in my Facebook of me being strangled by Michael Myers.
Nice. I think I might remember that. I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah,
But
it
that's
was
pretty
pretty
awesome, though.
cool. It was pretty
Yeah,
cool. It
good for
was
them.
fun.
That's a good promo. But but yeah, go see watch the original, watch the 2018, and my God, get ready for this weekend because it's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for Halloween Kills.
And that's all you need to watch if you've never watched any of the other Halloween movies for this new one. That's the only two you need to watch. You
Yeah,
can go
yeah,
back and watch the other ones later if you like what you see.
that's the
And
beauty of it.
I think there is something online of like the choose your own adventure of how you want to continue the Halloween watching. So
That's
tread
pretty
carefully.
Well, all right, Cody. Well, I tell you what, since we did Halloween this week, any thoughts on next week? Like
I
we've
do
kind of
have
covered.
thoughts on I do have thoughts on next week, but also did we want to get online either Sunday or Monday night and do a discussion on Halloween Kills, or are we just gonna watch it?
I am good with that. I'm down with doing that. Maybe Sunday night because I'll be gone. We'll be back Sunday afternoon, so We can do
Okay.
that. We'll watch it because we're gonna watch it like Friday night. That's gonna be our Friday night movie.
Can we make it Monday just in case I don't get to watch it till like Sunday or Monday? Because I'm going to be out of town Friday and Saturday. And I
Okay,
don't know if the people I'm with are going to want to watch it.
gotcha. Hey, that's totally fine with me. Let's do that.
Now,
what did you have in mind?
are we gonna just do a review or are we gonna just do a warning like spoiler conversation?
I mean, I'm good with spoiler talk. I
Okay,
mean,
but
that's
since
what
it's a
we're
new
about.
movie,
So
we need to like put that in the
we
because like
will.
with the old since we mostly do older movies, I don't really do spoiler warnings because I'm like, if you haven't seen the
Yeah,
movie, you probably should go watch the movie first and then come back and listen to us talk about it. But since it's a new movie,
I'm good either way. I mean, it's
okay.
hard. It's gonna be hard not to do a spoilery version of it, but I'm good. We can do
We'll
either
just put
one.
a warning. We're gonna do a spoiler talk. So if you want to listen to us talk about Halloween Kills, watch it first. It'll be streaming on Peacock, so maybe you can get a free trial. I think you can get it for only $5 a month or $6 a month. So if you don't want to go to the theater to watch it, you know, shell out 5 or 6 bucks just for a month of Peacock. You can watch all the Office you want after you're done watching Halloween Kills for that month too, if you want to.
Right. Well,
As as for
I'm sorry.
next
Go ahead.
week, I had two ideas.
Mhm.
Um, one, have you guys seen either of Jordan Peele's movies?
We haven't, and I've been wanting to watch them, at least one of them, and that's Get Out. I haven't seen that yet, and I've
Yeah.
heard that's excellent.
So if we did, I would thought we could do a double feature of Get Out and Us. And my only hesitation is, and it's okay, but it's like we're going to be a bunch of white people talking about Get Out, but it's a great movie. So my
Yeah,
backup,
that's my only concern. Like, I don't want to like. I really do think before I speak, but I don't want to have a foot and mouth moment by accident. I'm not saying I'm like purposefully gonna try to say something. I know they're great movies, but like Cody said, where I'm a white dude trying to discuss, uh, you know, a African American led issued movie. So I don't know. I'm guess I'm fine with it. What was your backup?
The Sixth Sense.
Ooh, they're both good, man. They both sound good to me. They really do. Because I haven't seen one at all, and I haven't seen the other in several years. So, like, I
Well,
don't
both of
know.
Jordan Peele's movies are phenomenal. I mean, it's okay if we discuss. I just, we could just talk about how
Yeah,
good the movie is, or why you didn't like it
I'm
if you don't like it. But
I'm good. Why don't we do? I tell you what. Why don't we do Get Out and Sixth Sense?
Okay.
That way,
You
it'll
want to get
split
out
up.
in the
It'll be
Sixth
two
Sense?
different. It'll be two different
Okay.
movies.
Well, Us is not as racially topical as Get Out. I mean, it still deals
Mm,
with race because it's interesting that the entire lead is a family of color, African American family in a horror
right,
film. They're the main characters, but it's more of like a class issue than a race issue of what's going on in that film. So I do
right.
recommend you watch it, but if you don't want to discuss it, if you want to do Get Out in the
Oh,
Sixth Sense, that's fine.
there's
We can do
also the
that as
people under the stairs too, which
yeah, which
I've only
that's
seen bits and pieces of.
heavily that's I believe I would not be surprised if that is an influence on Us.
Really?
And Jordan Peele is remaking it as a producer. He's not directing it, but he's signed on as a
Mhm.
producer for a remake of that. So I'm really interested to see what a person of color will bring to that story because nothing
Right.
against Wes Craven. He's just, he was a white dude, but it
Right.
was an interesting film, and I really think it's underrated for like the topics it brings up.
Well, I tell you what, since we have several, let's mull them over and we'll decide it and I'll post it, you
And then
know.
I want to do Shaun of the Dead the week after that because of Edgar Wright's new movie.
Ooh, yeah, that'll be fun. Um, we could do zombies. We could do Shaun of the Dead, which will be kind of the comedy
Do
side.
we want to do Romero's, or we want to do one of the Romero's? Because
Yeah,
that's
we
basically
could.
what he's riffing on, is one of the Romero's.
Yeah, we could do the original
Night of the Living Dead?
Night of the Living
Yeah.
Dead. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good to me. That way we'll cover zombies. We'll have done vampires, um,
We've done
boogeymen,
slasher. We've
slashers. Yeah.
we've done ghostly or demons of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. So yeah, we're covering all the spooky bases. So that sounds good to me. We'll cover some zombies. And then I feel like I want to do another show, like another
Well, I think
little.
we should talk Trick or Treat either Saturday night or Sunday night on actual Halloween.
That sounds good to me. Because I'd like to do that, but also maybe here in the next week do I know we're gonna do Halloween Kills, but maybe the week of do like another, if we can squeeze another little show in there, I'm good with doing that because there's so much I want to talk about. Like I want to cover more movies, uh cover as many spooky movies as I can. I wouldn't mind doing one on the witch, like finding of course, I guess that could have gone in with Sleepy Hollow too,
Oh, it could have, yeah.
like the
That would have been a good
witchcraft.
double feature.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot to that we could discuss, but yeah, that sounds good to me, and we'll cover those, and it'll be fun.
Yeah,
So
just let me know
everybody,
what you want to cover next week, and then
okay,
yeah, we'll do the zombies the week after.
that sounds good.
But yes,
Um,
join us Monday night to talk about Halloween Kills, but it will be spoilers, so watch the movie first before you listen, because we don't want to ruin it for you.
please do, but we will. We'll totally ruin it for you because
But
that's
we're
what we do.
warning you already
Yeah,
before we even do the show that
bingo. Like,
you've been warned.
yes. If you come in there and you're like, "Well, you didn't warn me," no, I'm sorry. Nope. We'll go back. Instant replay.
I'll probably just write it like a bajillion times in the episode description.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
In caps lock, like we're yelling
Yeah,
at the moon.
yeah. As
All
Kirk
right,
yelled
guys.
at Khan. Have a
Yes.
good night, everybody. Keep enjoying your spooky season. And if there is specific horror film or spooky themed film, they don't have to always be all scary, just scary
Mhm.
themed. Comment it if you want us to talk about it. We'll try and make time. We're going to be doing a Bond special. I'm not sure when we're going to be able to do it. It may end up being in November because we're going to be pretty busy the next couple of weeks because we're going to be doing 2 Guillermo del Toro episodes next weekend because I had to get a new guest for Hellboy, and we're doing our Pan's Labyrinth episode. So that's going to be
Busy,
busy.
busy.
And then the next weekend's Halloween. So I don't think I want to do anything extra other than what we're doing. And then,
Mhm.
yeah, it'll probably be November before we can do James Bond. So I'll get with Pace and see their availability for that to just talk about James Bond. And maybe by that point, you might have found a way to watch No Time to Die.
Maybe. I
If
hope.
not, we won't talk much about it other than thoughts.
I hate to do that. Like I hate to be the guy. I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out. I'll see where I can watch it. Maybe. I don't know. I still don't know if I'm gonna brave the theater
No, I
just
totally
yet.
understand.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. Speaking of which, I know this is probably going to be the one you might do it. I'm hearing good things about the new Ghostbusters movie.
I I am too, man. I'm so excited. Like, I am super stoked about this movie. Um, I've got some other news, but I'll tell you after we are
Okay.
not live. But
One
yeah, like,
question. I
killing
just
me.
want your fan theory because I think this one's ignoring most of the second film. In the trailer, where Janine is talking to Carrie Coon,
Mhm.
did Egon and Janine hook up?
I don't think I'm thinking that they did not. I'm probably
Okay.
thinking this
I
was,
was wondering what she's doing in Oklahoma then.
I am too. Like, unless Egon left her, left it in the will or left her I don't know. It's just there's a lot there. There's a lot there, and
Because they hinted that they were going to hook up in the first movie, but then she ends up hooking
but
up with Rick Moranis in the second one.
I think she I think that she went with Tully, Luz Tully. Um, I don't know. There's just a lot that they don't touch on. Like, they could have had a family life outside of
Also in Ghostbusters 2, he
Ghostbusters.
didn't have any children yet, and Carrie Coon is older than 32.
See, yeah, see, I don't know. I don't
I
know
mean,
what that's
she's
all
she's
about.
38 or 39, so she could play younger, but I'm just saying like
Right. Unless she
but
was a test tube baby and, like, she was a toddler, like, he wasn't involved with the mother at all or something. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
guess I guess it could be. Who knows? We'll find
There
out. I'm
there's a
probably
lot
not
going
that
on
deep.
there. Yeah, but there's a possibility that we will be doing a show from there if you're interested,
From
uh,
where?
from the theater.
Oh. Mm,
Yes,
okay.
uh, a preview, so I can't say too much, but like I said, I will discuss it and hopefully announce it closer to time.
Okay, people, we're calling it a night because we have things to discuss that you can't listen to yet. So
Yes,
go back and watch Halloween. You should be watching it every year, anyways. I do because I love this movie so much for various reasons that I've discussed. And Halloween 2018 is a really good sequel, and I hope Halloween Kills keeps up the momentum and doesn't drop the ball like so many other Halloween sequels have in the past. So,
right.
good night, everybody.
Good night.